You.
I guess. I don't know.
I felt like we're super challenging. But I was crushing. Like,
Hello, Taurus.
But I feel like Jahan's like not a player. Like I feel confident fighting people. But like he pushes me a little bit. It was interesting seeing that all shit actually.
Well, yeah, I think if it's like way overboard on you, then you don't get that feeling. But like when it starts to get a little bit closer, then you automatically.
Are you excited about your coming reign?
Yeah. It's
Yes.
almost like I feel like I wish I
Is it one of those things where because you've done it before, you're like old hat, not that?
I would say that it's been 9 years since the last one. And
Oh, okay.
So it's different this time for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different components. Things are just they just work
Yeah.
differently. I would say that this so far has been more work than either of the other two rounds
and like
Oh,
we have
okay.
a set that we
involved.
Is
There's
it
more?
is it because of like goals you guys have set for yourselves?
Some of it's the goals we have set, and some of it is there's just so much more that we're involved in that
Oh, I see. Okay.
we like because of social media, because of our marketing, because it's just a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of that also is because like in our kingdom the crown's word is law. We don't have
Oh,
area
yeah.
or anything.
Okay.
And so a lot of people end up putting a lot of decisions and a lot of whatever control within the crown.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then because of when our crown tournaments are right now, you don't have much time, like if any, to get everything in for Gulf War and Penzic.
Oh, I
So
see.
It's just a whole lot real fast.
Alex and I have kind of discussed our if when.
Yeah, absolutely. As you should. Like, you should have a good reason to be crowned. You should have something solid, and you should have some ideas. At least one. I say don't pick more than two things, goals.
Yeah,
for
to
your reign
implement.
that you want to accomplish.
Okay, that's very good advice.
And then the other thing that people end up getting wrapped up in is they become very reactionary to everything happening around them.
Oh, I see.
And so they lose focus on their goals and what they're trying to do.
Okay.
And get distracted. So
Instead of being like proactive on like this is the goal for this reign.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
So I've seen a couple of people got pulled off track. I'm like, did you get your goals? What you wanted? They're like, well, no, there's just so much going on. I'm like, okay, well, that's not good.
Yeah. You kind of have to make time for those things.
You do.
Because otherwise you do get swamped in just all the to do.
For sure. So.
A lot of what I'm learning is kind of like the interesting expectations that come from different groups.
Yes.
Because it doesn't look the same. Different groups want different things from you.
Very different.
Or even different people. Different people want different things.
Yeah, so when you talk about different groups, think of like different groups as in like socio groups. So like the fencing community is a socio group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the macro group.
Artisans are broken up to a couple of different socio groups for the most part. Heraldry and scribe is a little different because especially the heralds, they are very different.
Yeah.
Than the rest of the arts community. And then you have now the throwing weapons community that's starting to build. And, then you have community of who just like people that do all this stuff and make sure things happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you have to be able to communicate with them and understand where they're coming from and kind of how all their communities work because you're the person doing it.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And that's hard.
That is hard. That's one of the biggest things. Because by necessity, you're going to make somebody unhappy by making someone else happy.
100%. You cannot. And so I tell people that get all the information you can from all the sources you can. And that's going to be from people maybe you don't like.
Yep.
But get all the information you can and the viewpoints you can before you make a decision.
Yeah.
Because it does you no service. It doesn't do the service to all the groups. If you're thinking in a silo or taking the opinions of a silo.
That's exactly what I was like. We were talking about, basically building a cabinet.
Yeah.
Like trustworthy humans to really communicate with different groups in a meaningful way.
100%. So if you know that certain individuals kind of lead certain groups, and that's the groups we're talking about, or the households or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. All the.
Like you should not necessarily. I'm not saying be friends with them, but you should at least get to know them well enough that you can talk to them and
ask them their
ask
thoughts.
them their thoughts and get a real opinion from them. And then you take all those together, and then you do what you think is the right thing, and that's all you can do. And inevitably somebody's going to get upset about it. And if you know, like, okay, this is definitely going to make these people upset, there's ways to communicate and to talk and words, the right words to say where it's not so brusque. And so
I feel like there's a way to communicate, like these are our reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's from this point of view, here's from this point of view. And we understand that this side, it really does feel like a lot of, it's political, very political. It's the job.
It is the job. So I've found that has really helped us is that if you show people you care in your words and your deeds, then they're going to be like, okay, well, they care enough to make that they're trying to do the right thing.
Right,
So, you're always going to have people who they're just not going to be happy no matter what unless they get their way. It just is. And you have to be okay with upsetting people, honestly.
The presumption of, good intent from the crowds is the good
there isn't any, right? Most people think it's you don't have good intent.
Right, exactly.
That's their you don't get a neutral from most people. You get immediately.
Right.
That's okay. You immediately get, they don't have a good intention or they're doing this for nefarious reasons.
Right.
The reality is 99.99% of the time that's not the case.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Maybe they had bad information, or maybe they had to make a choice that it's just not.
It's a hard choice. Yep.
Yeah. So it happens.
That's the part that I want to try to build that goodwill, so that generally at large you can burn through some of that during the rain, as some people get upset because you're not doing exactly what they want.
So one of the things that we're doing this rain that we didn't do as much the last 2 weeks is we're being as transparent as we possibly can with every decision, with anything we're trying to do. We're trying to be transparent.
Put it out.
Put it out there that, hey, this is what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. And then if we are making any changes to Kingdom Law or anything to the structure or that's very impactful to the populace, then we're saying, hey, these are what we are going to do. We would like commentary and feedback.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I was trying to get this.
Okay. So I feel like that is helping us a bit because we're getting a wider viewpoint, but it's also, it makes people feel like, oh, they're listening to me, and I get a chance to speak my voice, even if they don't go with what I'm saying.
Yes,
Because we do, and you can't just sit there and be like, yeah, whatever, and roll your eyes. You have to actually listen.
So that everyone gets heard.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's important because, my SCA is different than everybody else's, and I don't want everybody else to be like, what I like and what I enjoy and what I think about it isn't what everybody else is.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's why I would really want counsel, because exactly that. I have my biases.
Yeah.
I am at my core just a combat enthusiast who happens to do it in this context.
Yeah. And a lot of people build that sort of counsel, but a lot of times they end up building an echo chamber.
Right.
That kind of thinks along the same lines.
Yep.
And so that's what I've cautioned people to do is
that makes sense.
Please don't do that.
You find people who aren't in your circle.
That aren't near you, geographically or
culturally,
in your exactly, and get their opinions and everything else. And so I feel like that is helping us a lot more. But I honestly wish people read Kingdom Law and Kapora, and just learned it a lot more. That would be really helpful.
Right. So you have to explain the context of some of those.
Well, and sometimes the funny thing is people, especially I'll see people who are in positions like Crown or elsewise in the kingdom, and they'll be like, well, I don't know what this is. I'm just going to trust somebody's word of what the rules say.
Oh, yeah. It's like going and reading it yourself. Yeah.
Go read it yourself.
Yep,
It's fine to ask for clarification, but you should read it yourself. And if you think that doesn't line up with what you read, then you have a society officer you can go to to get clarification if you have to. And you should.
Right. There's a chain of command built in for that. Actually, when I go back and read some of the rules, I'm like, I really can't make a sword as long as I want. There's things that you're like, oh, that's cool.
No,
okay.
do that.
Nope.
Now, some kingdom laws and conventions change some of those rules. You know, like
Yeah.
like you're talking about the Madu in Atlantia.
Yeah.
You know.
I asked some people about the history, and apparently there was an actual problem with something else. I think it was like some axe design. I don't remember. They had like a problem with a weapon type that was out of period and causing injury, but then they threw the Madu in as like, we also don't want this.
Yeah.
And apparently both of them got banned, and it hasn't been unbanned since.
I mean, and when you look at stuff like that, you're like, okay, what was the reason for it, and how long ago was it?
Yeah.
Because our technology's changed.
Yeah.
And how we do things has changed.
The meta changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I like that, like the armored shift to faster weapons and lighter hits, as opposed to like trying for crushing blows. It was like healthier for everybody.
yeah. Well, and I've actually had so many conversations across the U.S. actually about this where we talk about, you know, calibration and heavy and a little bit distancing. But in heavy, the higher you make the calibration, the more likely for injury on your body and on your opponent.
Exactly, yeah. When you whiff and you swing as hard as you can,
but
that fucks you
also
up too.
you end up with looking at, is that really inclusive?
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, it's the opposite,
It's
right?
the
Yeah.
opposite, right?
I understand what you mean,
And
yeah.
so when we're looking at like, well, why can't we get, you know, smaller people?
Yeah.
Most of which are gender minority.
Yeah, that was
Correct.
You know, or why can't we get college students to stay home smaller? Because most of them are Olympic weightlifters. They're not like you, you know, they're bad in shape. We're like, why can't we get them? Why can't we keep them? I'm like, because part of it is money, yes, but some of it's culture. But a lot of it is the calibration is just so high. It's just not attainable, and it's not a good time.
I was thinking
If I
about
can't walk into class or into my office the next day, like physically I can't, I'm hurting to that degree.
pushing here outside the center
This isn't fun, and I'm not
And as I
going
was
to
thinking,
stay.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And why are we doing that? It makes
Yep.
no sense.
Why do we choose to do this? Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
not saying like